Three, two, one, and action.
Good evening, everyone. This is Wahib from the Goodfolks podcast. You guys, if you're wondering where you can listen to this podcast in audio format, you can find it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Encore. The audio-visual format is also available on YouTube in our YouTube channel, Algerian Black Pearl. Guys, today I have one of the most interesting guests ever. She's called Chiraz Bensemmane. I'm going to read your biography first so that people can have an idea about what kind of person I'm talking to right now. So she's a nomad entrepreneur, an expert in sales and public relations. She has been working, selling, and traveling for over 6 years in more than 12 countries for over $3 million worth of products and services. She is now the founder and CEO and founder of Pitch. I said founder 2 times, but anyway. Of Pitch Word Fast since 2015, a business development consultancy and project management company, providing its clients with support, especially for exports and cooperation projects in African and emerging markets. This is a free marketing ad for your company that I just did right now. Okay, so what am I missing in this biography is actually the personal life, because this is the professional side of you. Okay, yeah. But I think that a lot of people who are listening to this podcast would want to know more about Chiraz. So first of all, when they listen to your accent, they would not guess that you're Algerian. First, are you Algerian?
Yes, I am 100% Algerian product.
Okay. Okay, and you were born in Tunisia?
Yes, in Nabil, 1 month before I was due, because my mom wanted to have a little party, I guess, and I just told her, I want to come here too. So I think that kind of tells you a lot about me, because I tend to do things earlier than you're supposed to. I finished my master at 21, so that gives you a bit of an idea. But I grew up in Annaba because my dad was working in Hajar. And then when I was 10, I moved with my parents, obviously, and my sister. We moved to Marseille.
Okay.
And I did all my school there. Then I did business school in Strasbourg. Also had the chance through that business school to do 1 year at Georgetown University and started working. I mean, besides work, I think my life is a lot about work. But besides that, it's about a lot of travels, cultures.
You got your master's in the US, in Georgetown University?
I got it from France, but I had an exchange year that I was supposed to do, and I did it at Georgetown University.
That's amazing. What was the major?
International business.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, there are a lot of people who study something and they work on something else. But you did it. Like you study something and you work in the field that you study.
I think we had this conversation with my dad. My dad has like a big influence in my life. I remember when I had to choose which language I wanted to choose, which is the second foreign language in France. So that was my fourth. That ended up being Spanish. I wanted to do German. He's like, no, you go for Spanish. I was like, okay. And that now I'm grateful for that. And then I wanted to go when I was 16 to do HEC Montréal. It's like, no, you're going to do prépa, and then you're going to do a business school. I was like, okay. And that's pretty much what I did. And I always liked sales. So I ended up taking that and doing like international business, because I like the international part of it, because it's always a mystery to get to know the profile of the person, integrating the culture, trying to understand how you can provide them with a solution, sell them something. And the first job that I got was with this company called Focus Reports, which is a international publishing company. And every 4 to 7 months, I was stationed in a different country. That's how I actually got to travel and work in all these different countries. And for me, that was my dream job, because I got to sell, I got to travel, and that was amazing.
Yeah, so you were interested in sales. Is it just sales, like selling anything, or maybe there is a particular market that you were interested in?
It was honestly just sales, because of the game of understanding the person, because you do a lot of profiling when you do sales. So that was really just sales. I didn't know, because when you do a business school also, you don't really know the industries that you want to work in. Now I work in healthcare mostly, but also agriculture and energy. But besides now having the experience that I had and that I chose those industries, I actually didn't know what kind of industry I would want to. But I knew that whatever I would be selling, it would have to have an added value, because I You might ask me to sell a pen, but I don't think I will do it because I don't see that much the added value. But I wanted something with added value, and we were selling country reports. So I was selling advertisements.
So when you say an added value, you mean something that benefit the other person's life?
Yes, that I could see that myself I believe in. That I think that really it has value.
You wouldn't sell cigarettes, for example?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm sorry. Actually, I am against that. So I won't be the perfect salesperson. Even now, when I do help my clients export, I actually look at their product. I look at their service. And if I believe in the culture of the company, if I look at the team, I look at a lot of things before taking on the project. Because if I don't believe in their product or their service, it would be very hard for me to sell. And any salesperson, you could sell, but it won't be the same thing because you won't really be passionate about it.
Yeah, true. So your first experience started as just an employee for another company where you got the experience, probably you learned, you got the practical experience instead of the theoretical one that you had at university. But then you created your own company.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us more about it? First of all, how long did you work in another company before you started your own project?
3 years and 10 months precisely.
Mm-hmm. What made you think of starting your own company?
I love this question, to be honest, because if you would have met me 12 years ago when I was in prep school or in business school, and you would have told me, do you want to start, because entrepreneurship was actually one of the majors in my school.
Right.
And I had a lot of friends going for entrepreneurship because usually the people that went for entrepreneurship at our school was like the people who didn't really know what they really wanted to do. And entrepreneurship, you touch about everything because yes, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to look at marketing, you have to do like finance, you have to look at sales, you have to look at really everything.
Yeah.
And when people asked me about it, I was like, are you crazy? Me? Never. I am not going to take that risk. Give me your money and I'll manage your company. I am never going to take that risk. Fast forward, created 2 companies, right? And launched other projects. So I guess I did it. But pretty much what happened was, so the company I was working with, as I said, was my dream job, really. I got to work with them in Brazil, in South Africa, in China, Canada, Norway, Scotland. And it's actually thanks to them that I came back to Algeria in 2014. And part of the job was, my job was to interview CEOs, decision makers, ministers.
My God.
Yes, right?
And how old were you?
21 when I started.
21 interviewing CEOs. That's a lot of pressure.
I know. You learn so much because these people have a lot of experience and you have to, and I'm the kind of person, so my dad is 83 today. I mean, not specifically, but this year he turned 83. And my parents are the kind of person, especially my dad, if you're stupid, he won't talk to you. And when you're a kid, obviously you are stupid. And I never wanted anyone to think that I was stupid or shallow. So imagine when doing those interviews with those CEOs, and I was working in 2 sectors, whether I was doing a report on oil and gas or on pharmaceutical. So these people, they knew their thing. They've been like the CEOs or ministers, so they knew what they were talking about. And I had to do all my research about their market, about their company. And this is why I said I learned so much in this work that I had before. And I learned also to manage teams because I was project director. I think the 2 last years that I was with them, I was project director. I had my own team in the different countries. And because I was meeting with those CEOs, I was selling, so this comes to sales, I was selling to them advertisement. So it was branding advertisement. And the more I was with them, the more I was talking with them, and obviously because I was good at what I was doing, I got offered a lot of jobs, and I got offered by the general manager or the CEO, so it was on the spot if I wanted the job. But the more I did that, the more I didn't see myself working for them. I could see myself working with them. I could see them as partners. I saw them as equal. I didn't see myself anymore as, yeah, you can tell me what I'll do and I will do it. But I want to add value to people. There's no point of just being like, yeah, I want to start my own company and I actually have nothing to offer to you. And because I worked in a lot of emerging markets, I saw, especially in emerging market, that a lot of SMEs, small, medium companies didn't have long-term, mid-term and long-term sales strategy. It's a lot about opportunity. And Algeria was the perfect finale for me to see that, where people was like, oh, there's this opportunity. I'm going to do it. They make a lot of money, but they don't think about what is after or how to sustain it.
Right.
And considering that I had done sales in, so at the time that was like, it was 7 countries, I was like, I know that I can help them because I'm good at sales. I know how to do things. I know how to do sales process. I can help them with their strategy. And in addition to that, I speak 4 languages and I have those market experience. So I can help them if they want to export. So what I did is, first thing that I did, because again, I'm a risk-averse person, so I went to the Chamber of Commerce of Strasbourg because I had done an export trade mission with one of the export managers during my business school. And I presented to him my company project. And I was like, because he worked a lot with SMEs, I was like, do you think this is something that could be of interest to companies? And he's like, yes. Great. So while I was still working, I started doing all the admin things for the company, looking at the name, the logo, what are going to be my services. I worked a little bit about the website. Then I went on holidays because I needed the holidays. And then worked again with my past employers, and then came back to Algeria to actually give the reports that we had done with Algeria, and started pretty much prospecting some clients. And actually my first prospect was my first client and is still a client today, to date, 5 years later. Yes, I'm very proud of that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's an amazing journey. I think that what a lot of people suffer from, like what they would have suffered from if they were in your position, is probably confidence. Like especially in a very young age, interviewing those people with very, very, like strong profiles. And so you keep questioning yourself, am I that good? And then you keep questioning your performance. Did you do that at the beginning?
Yes, and I still do that.
You still do that?
Of course, because things change in any case. So you're always going to be learning, and the trends of any markets or anything you're in keep on changing. So you're going to be learning, and sometimes I doubt myself and I'm like, what am I doing again? What is this? I told you earlier that I'm doing those webinars for the African countries and African ministers, and now I'm touching about economic, which is not something that I did before. So I'm obviously scared because I'm like, okay, what if I completely ruin it? Because that ruins like my entire reputation and my entire work. But I think that comes to something that is very important, is prepare and research every single time. That was what I was doing. I was preparing myself, researching everything, and I had, I think, the best and the worst experience. My managers, my directors used to record me when I was doing those sales meetings. So usually, pretty much the way that it worked is that I was doing the presentation of who we were, what we do, and why we wanted to meet with them. Then we had an interview, and then I came and did what we call the planteo, so doing the sales. And those 2 parts were recorded. And after each meeting, I got to listen to my amazing voice, which I think everyone hates doing, listening to your own voice, right?
Yeah.
But that was the best exercise ever, because you get to listen to yourself, you get to see how you say things and how you could improve yourself. Because there's a difference between what you think you said and what you said. So at the end of the day, when I went to those meetings, or even till today, I know that whomever I'm going to meet, I will have to prove myself. So I don't take my experience for granted, because I don't know you. I don't know the person I might meet tomorrow. So whenever, I will have to prove myself to you, right? So I go there with no prejudice, with no expectation. I'm going to prove myself to you, and I'm just going to focus on doing my best.
Did you ever have miscommunication with people? Like, especially since you interviewed people from different cultures. Sometimes there are some cultural differences, and then you start wondering, is it my fault or their fault? Do they just happen to be rude, or is it me who's not professional enough and didn't know how to handle the meeting? So
the best example was China. China was like...
Did you talk about the food they ate?
I lived in China for 7 months.
Okay.
And I was living in Beijing. Worst and best experience. I will always say worst and best because I learned so much from it. But I think after 1 month being in Beijing, I was just depressed, like really. Because nothing was like I expected. People were dirty according to me. People were rude. People were like violent. I got into a fight, like a fist fight with a man.
Really?
Because there, men and see, we talk about women and men equality. I don't want to get into that debate. But
Yeah, we talked a lot about it in this, this podcast.
But when we talk about it, we would actually, although we say we want equality, we would never accept that a man hit a woman. Like, this is just a no. But in China, men hit women, women hit back. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, what's wrong with those people?
Oh my God. Did you see the last video that was in Annaba?
No, I didn't.
You did not? So there was a fight outside, and there was this woman coming, she was going towards the man with a sword. Like,
oh man, no, I didn't see that.
It was like yelling, and like, they were fighting. Like,
but I would see that I got hit in my hips by a guy because we didn't want to, because there was a miscommunication on the price. That was on a personal experience, but like on the price, and that was pretty much, in any case, the only money we had with my friend, because we just went to do a pedicure and we came back and that was it. The guy was like, no, this is not what we agreed on, and he started hitting me, and he started taking my friend because she was like petite. So I was like, leave her, and I was like, okay, and we were just in front of the residence where we were living, where there's guards, and those guards didn't do anything.
Kept watching?
Yeah, just kept watching. Here, if you see a foreigner getting hit, like everyone, especially the police, will be like, we protect. They're watching. We're like a show to them. So China was really, I think, the experience, because there are those kind of cultures that is completely different from ours.
Yeah.
And unless you think that you need to learn like a baby, that you don't know anything, that your values, your beliefs are not the same, you will just be hitting a wall. And from the day, so a month after that I learned that, everything got better, because I was just embracing the change and embracing that I was learning and that I didn't know anything. And that makes you so humble, because sometimes we get so much in our heads that because of our experience or something, and we think we know it all, and you figure that no, you don't know anything. I mean, we do know quite some things, but we're always learning. So this is why I said, like, I'm always learning. I knew that, but China really put me back to my place and be like, yeah, you don't. And because completely different. So there was like miscommunication, but when it came to business, we took a translator. So at least when we got to speak Chinese, I didn't have to speak Chinese, but I learned a little bit of Chinese because I love learning languages. Whatever the countries, I learned to speak Portuñol, so if I go to Brazil, I'm completely fine. But in China, I just learned a couple of things so that people will see that I'm making an effort. So I was telling them that I was Algerian, and they loved Algerian women. They're like, they're so beautiful. Algeria is amazing.
Wait a minute, Chinese people say
yes.
that? They know?
Yes, they know. Me too, I was like, you know Algeria, you know. And then I remember, because yes,
it's such a vast country. I mean, it's like vast population.
Yes, but look at the history, look at the diplomatic relationship we have with them. When we celebrated our 50th independence day, they were the first country to celebrate it for us. They were the first one to actually
Yeah, but there is difference between the government and the people. Sometimes
How many Chinese companies are in Algeria?
There are many, but how many Chinese companies are all over the world?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But they knew Algeria. They knew it, and it was so funny. And I learned to say I'm Algerian, and it's so hard because they're like intonation. And I was like, whoa, chong fagola. So I just ended up saying that I was French because it was like easier. Because fagola means French, and Algeria is like whoa, chong Algili something. And if I was saying it the wrong way, it didn't mean that. So my translator all the time was like, she's Algerian. They were laughing, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And I take it when it comes to cultural and things like this, if people are laughing, even if they're laughing at me, I don't take it the wrong way, because at least people are laughing and it puts like a good energy in the room. So I don't mind. Laugh at me if you want. It's a good start. You're laughing. But
that's better than getting angry at you.
For sure. Yeah, no, definitely. There won't be, and again, because there won't be any point, but we will always get impressed by people who have more experience and who are older than us. But at the end of the day, we just have to remember that these people are actually people, that they were in our shoes before. And at the end of the day, as long as you're proving yourself and you know what you're talking about, at some point they're just going to forget where you're from and how old you were. Remember my company, so I created when I was 25, 26. The first job that I had was training a sales team, and the people that I was training were older than me, all of them. And there were like 13 of them that I had to train. Half of them were men, half of them were women. And I come and I had like those little dresses like I had like when I was living abroad, and I just came like, "Ooh, hi everyone, how are you?" And they were like looking at me. Obviously the general manager is a man, so I knew that they were gonna have this expectation or this thought that, yeah, I got hired because I'm just nice, I'm a girl, the GM, ta ta ta. And I knew it. Even if they didn't believe it, I went with that, and I was like, whatever happens, I'm gonna prove them. It took me, not even like, it took me an hour, let's say for all, but not even an hour for them to be like, ma'am, ma'am, and they were like younger than me, because they saw that I had experience, and what I was gonna tell them was something of interest and something of value. It wasn't because, and they forgot that I was young or wasn't. They didn't actually ask at some point how old I was. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have an experience with that. So when I went to Sweden for...
Love Sweden.
It's amazing. I love all Nordic countries. They are very, very different in comparison to the rest of the world.
Yes.
They are very calm. The people there are very calm. They're very nice. I don't know, like the first time I was in Sweden, I was actually surprised because the stores, the shop, I mean, all the stores and the shops outside, they don't close everything. Like, for example, when they're closed, they don't close everything. Probably because there is no robbery. And so, for example, you see the light inside, and then you go and you knock the door or something, and then no, it's like it's closed. And that's like how they keep it. But for example, here in Algeria, I mean, they close like everything. You see? And so that made me feel like, wow, like it's a very secure country. People feel safe. So yeah, I mean, we went to Sweden. I was actually selected, me and another girl here from Algeria, program, leadership program, and we had some coaching from facilitators from a very famous school there in Sweden called Hyper Island. Mm-hmm. They actually have sectors in England, in the US, in Singapore. So they also work in that. They actually do coaching for businesses and companies. And so when I was coming back to Algeria, I was having this idea. I told to the girl who was with me, I said, like, why don't we start a project in Algeria where we actually do this sort of training for the sake of employees in Algerian companies? And then the one obstacle that we had is that probably people will not take us seriously because we're young, and you got people with 15 years experience and you are going to train them. Like, what the hell? It just doesn't make sense. But it's just that I'm not really depending on myself, I'm depending on the program and what I learned. So I asked the facilitators to give me the
syllabus.
Yes, like all their program. They gave it to me. At first they were like just consulting each other, and they were like, yeah, okay, you can do it. Just give us your email and we'll email it. So they sent me everything they follow. And it was amazing. I was looking at like, it's just a whole world, like this, like treasure of knowledge. And so I was looking at all of that. And then when I came back to Algeria, I was working with this girl like to see if we can make that happen. And we actually agreed with a local company here to do the training in the Sahara, in the desert. It was for like a week, and we talked to one of the hotels there in Sahara, and then we agreed that we're gonna have 20 employees. And then so that they don't see us inferior, we thought that maybe we could bring one facilitator from Sweden to come and do the coaching with us. And so we also agreed with the Swedish embassy here to facilitate the visa process and everything. But then 10 days after, the company was like, oh, well, we don't know, you see, maybe. And then they stopped, answering our calls. And then one of the reasons because the company, all the employees are Francophone, so they don't understand English. And the person that we're bringing from Sweden didn't speak French. And so they thought that there will be trouble of communication. And I was like, damn, I wish if we had more, like English speakers here in Algeria, especially in the companies, but because that will be an opportunity to expose ourselves to the world and probably connect with different people from all over the world. But since they were all Francophone, so every time they bring a coach, it always has to be from France.
Okay, I love that you brought that up, because one of my projects is, I told you, with ministers. Mm-hmm. And actually I started that kind of project as roundtables for the Ministry of Health of Algeria.
Right.
So I started it in 2016, and to date I did 15 roundtables. And one of the things that I had said to the Ministry of Health is, nothing against France. I studied there and I learned a lot. It's like, but we have to get out of the French way of doing things. Not because they're bad, but because there are some other ways that are better depending on the subject.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. But the problem is that people, every time you say something like that, people think that, oh, maybe you're just hostile against France.
But this is why I start with, I have nothing against it. I prepare myself to that. And then I explain to them, and then I show them. So one of the first roundtable we had done was about, so Algeria had this objective by 2020 to be a hub of biotechnology. So there was a memorandum of understanding signed by Professor Mansouri in 2011 in the US for that with pharma, and there was also the US ABC Council that has signed it. So they had signed it, and me, I arrived, so I started my roundtable in 2016, so we were already like 5 years after. Nothing was really done. So I was like, okay, what model can we do? What should we do? The hubs for biotechnology in the world, they are known. Singapore, Ireland, Boston. Algeria was supposed to be the fourth. And I told them, you want that? I'm bringing people from Singapore, Ireland, the US, and because we're talking about biotech, I brought somebody from Canada, and I had somebody also from India because I wanted to talk about incubators, and yeah, that was like mostly for the incubator part. And the parks, yeah, the biotechnology parks. And I brought these people. So I brought somebody from Singapore, and people were like, Singapore to Algeria? And actually even the person actually that I'm from Singapore was like, yeah, so I am from Algeria, you will be coming from Algeria. And all my speakers arrived the day before the event and they left the day after. So they're like 48 hours in the country. So that's it. But what I did is like I brought translators. I was like, I don't care. You don't speak, that's fine. We're doing translation. Now when I'm doing my webinars, I do the translation. Enough of like trying to find excuses. You don't speak French, that's fine. There are some other solutions. We're just gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it is unfortunate that here in Algeria, we think that if it's in French, then it's easier, because we ended up having a lot of people that speak only, whether they're very good at English or they're very good at French. They are good at Arabic, and not everyone is that. They're good at Darja, they're not good at like classical Arabic.
Classical Arabic.
Well, actually languages are such a treasure, such an added value. If it wasn't for the languages that I speak, I don't think I'd be as good as I am. Because when you speak the language, you also have the culture that comes with it, because you understand the little sensitivity of that language. So it's unfortunate that you didn't get to do that, but I do believe that you will be able in the future. There's always a way to do it. And there's more and more English speakers English-speaking people in Algeria. So maybe the time wasn't just the right time, and there will be just another time to do it.
Yeah, true. So what do you think also about the e-commerce? Because in Algeria, we're talking about how people could start businesses online, but I think that it's still a little bit slow. I think it will bring a lot of advantages. I always tell people that if we could have, I don't know, now there exist, people can have Visa card, MasterCard, but not everyone knows how to do that because it's not common, I guess. And probably also because when you go to the bank, you gotta do a lot of things. I don't know how much you have to have in your bank account. And while in other countries, probably it's much, much, much easier. It's something like it's not new anymore, you know. I was telling people that like if we could start this culture of selling things online and buying online, probably when you start your own business, you won't have to rent. You know, you won't have to rent in expensive rent in the middle of the city with big signs so that people walking around can see you. You could have, I don't know, just small room wherever you happen to be, and then everything is online. You do the marketing online, you know, you get clients online, but we're still slow in that.
I think this has like two parts in the question, in the way that, so remember, so I have two companies, right? So I have Pitch World Fast, which is a consulting, and then I have Coach Tribe, which is online platform.
Okay.
The first thing that I would say the first problem that we have in Algeria is a mindset problem, in the way that a lot of people till today need to see an object. They need to touch it. They need to feel it to pay. This is why a lot of, when it comes to consulting, you have to do an education to people to explain why they need you. Me, for example, right, I help people sell and export. So my dad makes the joke, and some people make the joke that I am selling wind, like air. Like they're pretty much, it's nothing. It's just me talking pretty much. I am
selling words. Someone once said that. They said like now people are selling
words.
speech.
Exactly. So that's pretty much what they, so here in Algeria, that's something that there's a trust problem. So they still need to see the product, they still need to see the
Probably because there are many scammers.
Yes, most probably. And and I mean, we've seen it. And I think, you know, that's the one thing that hit me when I came back, and I was like, Algerian finds like they find their ways to do things, but not in the right things. Again,
yeah, not the right way.
I remember trying to bring my car from France to here because I did not want to buy a car. I had one, and I was like, and I brought it, and I thought I could go out, then I couldn't go out of the country. Anyway, till I get to talk with the customs, and they're like, yes, because there are people bringing cars from outside, mostly France. They change actually what's inside, put it to another car, or they just bring it and then leave it. Anyway, like big scams again. And I'm like, but there are people that are honest like me that just want to have a car. And I was like, although that hit me, I was like, man, they're like very intelligent though, because they bring a car that is like completely new. They have an old car and they just like change apparently the battery, the motor, the engine, everything. And then they put what was in the old car in the new car and just send it back. I was like, if we were as clever in the good things, my God, we could go like so far. But anyway,
that's probably because they want to make money fast.
Yes.
They want fast money.
We want everything right now. We don't have patience. We're not the only one in the world, but there's like more a culture of everything. So yes, again, the first thing is really about the object. This is why people still need, you know, the office, because people want to see where you are. In France, you just need like, you know, domiciliation. This is what people are doing now. So my company in France, I barely actually go there. It's just like it's called Regus, actually. It's a business center.
They actually also judge you based on that. I mean, for example, they look on your website online, then they judge the service based on where you're based. Yes, where you're based.
So see, there's a lot on the culture that needs to change. When it comes then to the payment part, I think first, again, it goes back to the culture in the way that in France, for example, or any countries, the Visa card is automatic. You don't have any kind of other card. It doesn't have to be like, it's a Visa card automatically. And there's a misconception, as you said, that to open up a bank account here in Algeria to get a Visa card, because I think you just have to put like 100 euros and then you can have, then it's like 1,000 to get like a special Visa card or whatever, but you don't need that much money actually on your account to have that Visa card. So there's a misconception, and because it's known but not maybe as known as it should be, people think that it's more complicated than it is.
But well, I tried to have one once, I remember. I checked one of the banks and they said that you have to be an employee of a certain company, and you tell us about how much you earn.
When was that?
Your salary? 4 years ago.
So I think if you go now, it's
easier?
It's easier. Yeah, it's easier. I don't have one here, but I just know because I checked it, because I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just put my like.
Maybe we need more.
I think it's just like bringing and just like showcasing how it's to some extent easy to do it, but it comes back to trust, because once you are paying online, here in Algeria, the customer has been used to pay once he receives the product or the service. When everywhere in the world, you pay and then you get delivered, and then you get your service delivered or anything. You have to pay something at some point. At the beginning, you pay something, especially for products. You pay it for that to come. But there's this lack of trust, and there's this lack of customer service. I have to say, I love you, Algeria. I love you, Algerian. But customer service, that's not that.
Are you talking about customer service at restaurants or?
Everywhere. I think when I see somebody that does a good customer service, I'm like, oh my God, you are amazing, where it should be just normal. Again, if we're taking the example of France, when you go to coffees or brasserie, the waiters are horrible, and they just do their job, etc. So we're not taking that example. But you look at companies, their service, the customer service is really a big focus of the company, because this is how you retain your client. This is how you buy like the loyalty. This is how you build your reputation. But I think nowadays with groups that they do exist on Facebook, such as like Les Meilleurs et Pires Coins d'Alger and all this, nowadays there is less possibility for companies to not do a good job and not have a bad reviews, because now people are checking on that. But again, it's a lot of education that has to be done. We are still quite far. It is unfortunate that it's taking us that long, knowing that it's that easy, but there's a lot of other intricate problems that need to be fixed, that we need to really look at, especially with data privacy, where is the data going to be stored, etc., that need to be fixed, which I understand but it is just that we're taking longer than we should, because it's something that does exist elsewhere than in most of the world. So it should go faster, I would say, for that. And I think whatever we're doing in the world is good to, or whatever we're doing in general, it's good to benchmark. Look at what is done everywhere else, and then just pick and choose what is good for you and just implement it. There's no point of reinventing the wheel. And I do believe that sometime in Algeria we like to complicate things. And I have this expression of saying, why make it easy when I can make it complicated? And I think this is how people think sometime in Algeria. I do think like this sometimes, mostly on my personal life, but not my professional life. Professional, I'm like process oriented. I'm like ta-ta-ta. But I think we like to overcomplicate things that don't have to be that complicated.
But are you talking about the deals between companies or in projects, or the way?
I would say everything to some extent.
They complicate things in
I see things. I mean, okay. Let's look at the e-commerce part.
Okay.
Right. So for the e-commerce, we could have just look at what is done elsewhere. Look at what is done for data protection. Look at the different laws. Look at the interoperability that is done in all the different countries. Look at what we have in our country, of course, as well. What is our realities? And then just, adapt it, move faster, just do it. But instead of that, or even for the servers, around the world, they do have servers in their country, but if not, they're using the servers of other countries. You don't have data centers in every single countries. So you could actually start with one, borrow it, or it's a shared one, and then you create your own. You don't have to do everything in one way.
We have the data servers in
Yeah.
Algeria.
Yeah.
They're slow at night.
They are, and I do understand though that it's about protecting the Algerians. So I do understand that, and we want to protect, but it's sometimes we may be so overprotective on some aspect. I'm not talking about data, because data is very important, but some things that we're taking things way too slow. When it comes to visa, come on, it exists everywhere. We can just go faster. But again, this is intricate with other issues that are, because when you're looking at visa, if you're paying in dinars, that's not an issue. But once you're going to look at international payments, that's when you're going to have the problem. That's where the issue lies. But this issue isn't linked to e-commerce. This is linked to a political decision. It is linked to an economic system that is only to the government to decide what they want to do. I'm not the government, I'm not going to say, but it is up to them to decide what is to be done, because the day we're going to be able to do free transfers, that we're going to be able to pay, the day our currency is going to be convertible, this is going to be easing a lot of things. But this takes a lot of time, and this takes a lot of measures that have to be done. And I don't know everything about it, and I'm not going to talk about it, because this is very much specific.
Yeah, but I think that it has also something to do with the culture. I mean, what you're saying reminds me of how also administrations work probably everywhere. I mean, at the schools where the teachers, they just wanna get things done and follow the book and whatever, even though they have ideas that probably they could do, even though there isn't much creativity, there isn't much people doing new things.
I love that. I love what you're saying.
I don't know why things don't change.
I think at some point in our history, Algerians lost hope. They lost the hope of dreaming, because whenever they tried something, look at your example with your with what you tried to do in the Sahara, right? So you tried, you wanted, you were so excited about it, and then something, and you're like, I can't do it. Maybe you're gonna do it again, and then there's, you can't do it. So there is so many things that people got bummed that are like, and maybe they're not doing it, but they see people doing it and trying and not succeeding, that at some point they're like, why would I try?
Maybe they also approach those dreams with the idea that I'm not going to succeed, but I'm going to try anyway. But then when the first obstacle shows up, they're like, I knew it.
Right? It's giving up. When you're an entrepreneur, and when I talk about entrepreneurship, when I talk about launching something, when I talk about entrepreneurship in general, I am not talking about launching a company specifically. You can be an entrepreneur just by launching a project. This, if it wasn't like, this is a project. You're an entrepreneur, you launched a podcast. Yeah. People who are launching an association or a club, they are entrepreneurs. They have an idea, they took action, they did it. That's what entrepreneurship is about. It's about having an idea and going for it. It isn't about like just creating a company. And I think when people are saying they're just seeing the challenges, but the challenges are part of the journey. You have to be resilient. The logo of my first company is a phoenix, because that's a reminder for me that I will be dead, they will kill me, but I will reborn from my ashes, because that's what sales is all about. Just get like a lot of no's, so you just get to sit.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
And this is what, when you're an entrepreneur, this is what it's all about. You're gonna get like so many obstacles, but your job is to find a way, to find a solution. And if you really believe in your project, to go for it. Like, you go for it, you push yourself, you ask for help. Yes, there is no shame for asking for help. I ask a lot of like people, it's like, hey, I need you for that. My friends helped me for my first website. My friend helped me for my designs. My friend helped me for a lot of things that I don't know how to do. I have a mentor when it comes to finance. I have a mentor when it comes to communication. I cannot know everything. And it's completely fine with that. And I'm fine with that. But what is for sure, tomorrow at 7 a.m. you call me, I'm already on the phone with the team till 10, 11, 12 p.m. My first times when I started the company, I was working from 7 a.m. till 4 a.m. every single day for 3 years. Because I was like, I need to do this, I need to do this. Then I was like, okay, I'm a bit tired, so I'm just gonna sleep a bit earlier. But it's about resilience. You have to be resilient, you have to be persistent. And yes, it's okay if people tell you no, figure out why. Okay, they told you no because people don't speak English. Fine, I'll bring a translator. Anything else? Whenever somebody...
Solution-oriented.
Exactly. Somebody, or ask the feedback. You're selling something, you're too expensive. Oh, really? Okay, tell me a bit more about that. Have you ever bought any services or any product like mine? Okay, what is the price range? Okay, I understand, but then explain why you're selling more expensive. If you are, you don't have to undervalue yourself just because people want to sell less. You just have, the most important thing is always to be solution-oriented, resilient, and understand why, because that's how we're gonna this is how we're gonna grow.
That's how we're gonna improve. Yeah. So as a last question before we wrap that up, I want to ask you, in the field of entrepreneurship, or let's say in the field of coaching, are you thinking about starting anything in Algeria to probably help those young entrepreneurs who want to start their own projects?
So I launched last year. So last year I was trained to be a facilitator for a project that is called Hive Women Leadership Program.
Okay.
So that was a 12-week program to help women launch their project. And first off, it's a lot about personal development, because see, we're talking about resilience, so we talk about mindset. So we were first focusing a lot about that, then figured out what were their passion, what they wanted to do, what they wanted to launch, and then working into market research and all the things so they could launch their project. So that was like a 12-week project program. I had like 5 women who did it last year. This year I wanted to do it, but then Corona happened and I couldn't do it online because of the person that I was working with. I was like, okay, then we can't do it, but I wanted to continue it, and I wanted to do it for not only women, but it was good to do it one that is specifically for women, because then when you talk about some fears that you have, then people are more inclined to be vulnerable if they're just women with women or men just with men, because there's a lot of fears and limiting beliefs when you come to entrepreneurship. So there's that. And then when it comes to coaching here in Algeria, well, I'm always looking at how I can serve Algeria whenever. So see, my first clients are Algerian. I do a lot of projects in Algeria. Whenever I'm doing my webinars, I am like killing myself to make sure that Algeria is part of the discussion because I want them to be part of the discussion. And when I did, so if you look at Coach Tribe, for example, today, I have coaches that are from Algeria. I have like 15 countries and Algeria is part of it. I'm putting Algeria on the map. I don't care about that. This has to be done. So then it just depends on what people need, and we always like find a solution with the companies or with the people.
All right, you guys should check her Instagram profile, Coach Tribe. You also share a lot of quotes there. I shared a lot of quotes. I saw the captions. I try to motivate people, tell them, share your experience. There is also a video of yours. So that's pretty much amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation, Chiraz.
Thank you for having me.
I think you're leaving soon, right?
I might be leaving soon, yes. I don't know yet when the dates are like still.
Okay, but I hope that we'll see you again in Algeria doing some other project.
Of course. Online, so whenever you need me, you can just DM me. Whenever I can be of any help, never hesitate.
All right, cool. So Chiraz told you DM me whenever you want. You're gonna get a lot of messages.
That's fine by me. That's fine
all right.
by me.
That's all for today or tonight. Have a good day. Bye-bye.